What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC 293. We got Israel Adesanya going against Sean Strickland.
I need all the wins, yeah. All that and all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video. This week we are breaking down a 12-fight card in UFC 293 with the middleweight championship on the line. Israel Adesanya going against Sean Strickland. It's a card that kind of feels like Paris last week, where there's a ton of fighters that, you know, they're going to have that hometown advantage. I think a lot of these favorites probably do come through, a lot of big favorites as well. So we'll try to navigate through them, you know, find some dogs as well along the way. Before we get into it, a couple things. This is a pay-per-view card, which means I am bringing back the Significant Strike contest. To enter this contest, first, leave a like on the video. Second, subscribe if you are not subscribed already. And then third, comment down how many Significant Strikes you think that Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya are going to combine for. $25 to first. If there's a tie, the tiebreaker does go to the person that commented first there. So comment down those Significant Strikes. Next, this video is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you guys have not checked out Prize Picks yet, be sure to do so. And when you do, use that promo code DFSBTN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And then, as always, I'll be getting out my Prize Picks video later in the week. Did fairly solid last week, went 7-3. Should have been 7-2, but I added, you know, a stupid play late in the video. But yeah, a good week nonetheless for Prize Picks. I'll be getting out some Prize Picks content later in the week as well. And then finally, now is a great time to sign up on DFSbythenumbers.com. The most popular option is that $10 MMA betting option. With that, you get access to my UFC stats, 2 betting articles. The first one is the full card breakdown and best bet article, where I break down all the fights, give the round, the method, the confidence rating, and the best bet for each and every fight. And then my final betting article, which comes out on Fridays, where I break down my tracked bets, and then I give a prelim, main card, and Hail Mary parlay as well. Along with that, Contender Series content as well, which is new. There's, I think, 5 weeks left for Contender Series. I put out my betting breakdown video for Contender Series, my betting breakdown article, my best bet article, and then also my fighter notes as well. So lots of stuff on DFSbythenumbers.com. That is always the best way to support me, and you get a ton of content for a very cheap price there. But yeah, with all that out of the way, guys, I say we get into it, and we're going to start with the first fight on the card. And we have Kevin Jousett going against Kiefer Crosbie. We'll start with Kevin Jousett. He was 30 years old, 6'1", 8-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Kiefer Crosbie, 33 years old, 5'11", with a 70-inch reach, 10-3, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at where these odds open. It's actually Crosbie who opened up as a minus 225 favorite. He is currently sitting as the plus 125 underdog, and Kevin Jousett, he opened up as a plus 190 underdog, and he's currently, you know, sitting as a minus 155 favorite. So, I mean, this is a matchup that, in my opinion, I feel like we should be watching on like a Tuesday. Like, I'm not really sure what the UFC is doing here, you know, putting this matchup on UFC 293, other than just trying to fill out a card. So yeah, kind of a low-level matchup here to start this card, but Kevin Jousett, you know, went back and watched a couple of his fights. You know, this is a guy that, you know, the most notable name on his record is a loss to Jack Della Maddalena. And in that fight, he showed his extreme toughness. This is a guy that got dropped multiple times by Jack Della Maddalena, was kind of able to hang in there. And then he ended up losing, but, you know, due to a doctor's stoppage. But, you know, he looked solid in that matchup. And then, you know, the matchups, you know, after that, this is a guy, Jousett, who does have a judo background, and he's a very technical striker. He's not a guy that's going to go out there and take a ton of risks. And like I mentioned, he's next level tough, which I think the toughness is probably going to come into play in this matchup. In terms of Kiefer Crosbie, this guy's like the complete opposite. This guy's like a complete madman. I'm not sure this guy's UFC caliber. I kind of feel like they're bringing him in here to get, you know, Kevin Jousett a win. Kevin Jousett is a guy that does train at, you know, City Kickboxing with, you know, Adesanya, Ulberg, Blood Diamond, all those guys. So, you know, that's why he's on this card. I don't think he's anything spectacular, but he's a skilled fighter. He's, you know, good on the feet. He's good on the mat. He's probably going to be the better fighter everywhere in this fight. Crosbie did have a win in his last fight against Alex Cowboy Oliveira, but It was a fight where, Alex Cowboy Oliveira, had like one of those 5-6 minute dance routines, spent all his energy dancing on the walkout and then gassed out in like 2 minutes. But he was able to finish, Alex Oliveira for what it's worth. But yeah, I just think Jousett is going to be better wherever this fight goes. The thing that worries me, though, about Jousett is like this guy is just super low volume. But like I said, Crosbie leaves a lot of openings to be hit, to be countered. I think Jousett can probably get takedowns as well. I like Jousett wherever this fight goes. So give me Jousett to win this fight. I'll take him to win this fight by decision, a fight that, I could really care less about, and a fight that we probably should be watching on a Tuesday night. Moving on, we have a fight that I'm a lot more excited about. Still a low-level fight, but at least this fight is going to play out, in a very fun way, I think. We got Shane Young going against Gabriel Miranda. We got Shane Young, 30 years old, 5'8", with a 72.5-inch reach, 13-7, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Gabriel Miranda, 33 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach, 16-6, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So Shane Young is on a 3-fight skid, and I looked at this matchup and I'm like, please, Gabriel Miranda, give me a reason to fade Shane Young here. I mean, Shane Young is a guy that I'm not personally high on at all. So I was definitely looking to fade him, and I'm sure a lot of people will. This guy's not won a fight in a very long time, right? And then I watched Gabriel Miranda, and I guess he's best known for losing to, Benoit Saint-Denis in his last matchup. He won the first 30 seconds of the Benoit Saint-Denis matchup, and I think a lot of people are, kind of overrating that because that's what Miranda does. He goes out there early, and he has success early, but it's early or never for Gabriel Miranda. This is a guy that has 16 wins. All 16 of those wins come in the first round and a half. This is a guy, Miranda, who's not fought the best competition at all outside of that Saint-Denis loss where he got dropped 3 times and ultimately knocked out early second round, and it probably should have been stopped in the first round as well. I don't like the striking defense of Miranda, but his ground game's his bread and butter. If he's able to get this fight down to the mat, he could potentially get Shane Young out of there. But if not in the first 5 minutes, he's going to start to slow down. Shane Young should have the takedown defense to keep it upright. And if Shane Young does survive those first 5 minutes, I think he starts to really pick apart Gabriel Miranda and probably finishes him as the fight goes on. I mean, the striking, I don't think it's even competitive. Miranda's very, very hittable, and not only in the Benoit Saint-Denis fight where he's been dropped, but he's also been dropped, fights outside of the UFC as well. So, yeah, I think Miranda's a guy that, if you like Miranda, you probably bet him in the first round because he's won 13 of his 16 wins in the very first round. He's going to come out hot, but I like Shane Young striking here, and I like him to win this fight down the stretch. In terms of, laying minus 175 on Shane Young, no thank you, but in terms of a pick, I think I'll take the hometown guy to get it done here. Second round knockout for Shane Young. Next, we got Charlie Radke going against Blood Diamond. We got Radke, who is 33 years old, 5'10", 7-3, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Blood Diamond, 35 years old, 5'11", with a 76-inch reach, 3-2, and 3-2 in his only 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that Radke opened up minus 180. He's currently a massive favorite. Like, we have a lot of massive favorites on this card. He's now minus 320. And Blood Diamond opened up plus 155. He is currently plus 270. So, when I saw this matchup, the first thing that I was wondering is, does Charlie Radke wrestle? Does Charlie Radke, go out there and try to get fights down to the mat? And the answer to that is honestly not really. Charlie Radke actually had a submission win in his last fight. I think it was for the CFFC title as well. And yeah, he was able to get a submission win, but he did not initiate that takedown. It was actually his opponent that initiated the takedown. Radke was able to get on top and eventually sub this guy. And I went and watched the majority of this guy's fights, and I don't really see him wrestle as much as I really should. I think there was one fight where he went out there and got takedowns early. But other than that, this guy's primarily looking to strike, which is kind of worrisome when you're talking about laying minus 320. With that said, though, he is training at a good gym in MMA Masters. You got to think he's coming in here with a good game plan, and that game plan would be to simply take down Blood Diamond. Radke, like I mentioned, his jiu-jitsu is really good. Once the fight gets on the mat, the jiu-jitsu is really good. I think he's maybe a brown belt, if I'm not mistaken, but he has multiple submissions on his record, and if he is able to get this fight down to the mat, he's probably going to run through Blood Diamond here. On the feet, it could be competitive, but I was actually really impressed with the striking of Radke. Very fast hands, love the volume, love the power as well, but Blood Diamond, kickboxing background, background. That's kind of what he's good at, right? So if you're Radke, in terms of taking the path of least resistance, it would be, getting this fight down to the mat, but I'm not confident enough to lay this price tag on Radke, just because I haven't seen him wrestle as much as he should. I'll say he does go out there, get some takedowns, though, and if he does get on top of Blood Diamond, he probably subs him. So another low-level matchup. Like, this is a low-level, first couple fights here, to be honest, but give me Charlie Radke to win this fight. I'll say he wins it by second-round submission. Moving on, we have Nasrat Haqparast taking on Landon Quinones. We got Haqparast, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 14-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Landon Quinones, 27 years old, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach, 7-1 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We take a look at the odds here. Haqparast, the second biggest favorite on the card, opened at -400, currently -470. Landon Quinones opened up +300. He is currently +370, and I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm not sure why, Landon Quinones is fighting this Saturday, if I'm being honest. I mean, we just saw him on The Ultimate Fighter. He went 0-1, getting submitted in 60 seconds by Jason Knight. I don't think he's, horrible or nothing like that, but, I mean, just he hasn't really proven much. He hasn't fought the best competition, and like I said, getting subbed in, 60 seconds against Jason Knight is just not the best look in the world. So, Haqparast has fought the much better competition here by a mile. It's not even close. There's actually used to be some hype for Nasrat Haqparast. People used to be high on this guy. He was a favorite against Drew Dober, a pretty big favorite if I remember correctly, and Drew Dober starched him in about a minute. That's when the hype kind of died down a lot, and then he lost to Dan Hooker, lost to Bobby Green, but he's going out there, he's beating solid competition like John Makdessi, Rafa Garcia, Alexander Munoz, Joaquim Silva. This guy's been in the UFC for, a long time at this point, like 6-7 years at this point for Nasrat Haqparast. So, this should be Haqparast probably all day. I think Quinones can make it a little bit competitive in terms of the striking, maybe mixing a takedown here or there, but Haqparast has good takedown defense. Love the volume of Haqparast and love the power as well. I'm going to say Haqparast actually catches Quinones at some point in this fight and knocks him out. Haqparast has shown a ton of power throughout the UFC, knockdown against John Makdessi, knockdown against Mark Diakase, had a knockdown against Joaquim Silva, knocked him out as well. I mean, this guy is racking up knockdowns. I think only has 1 or 2 knockouts in the UFC, but I'll say it's such a big step down in competition. He gets another knockout here. I'll say second round knockout for Nasrat Haqparast in this one. All right, moving on, we got Jamie Mullarkey going against John Makdessi. We got Jamie Mullarkey, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach, 16-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. John Makdessi, 38 years old, 5'8" with a 68-inch reach, 18-8 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see the Mullarkey opened up -350. He is currently -280. John Makdessi opened up +285. Is currently +240. I mean, I guess we didn't learn. The last time Jamie Mullarkey was like a -500 favorite against somebody making their debut in Naimov. And Mullarkey was looking good, and he ended up getting caught in that second round and knocked out. I just feel like, personally, Mullarkey shouldn't be this big of a favorite against anybody. So he's going to be the younger guy here. He's going to be the much bigger guy as well. He's going to be the hometown guy. But, Jamie Mullarkey is, very, very hittable. Jamie Mullarkey on paper, can be hit in multiple times. He has a significant strike differential of 0. That means he's getting hit just as much as, the volume he's putting out. Jamie Mullarkey does look to wrestle, but I'm not sure he's going to have success doing that against, somebody in John Makdessi, where John Makdessi's been in the UFC for a very, very long time now, and nobody, and I mean nobody, has been able to hold down John Makdessi. Like, John Makdessi's been in the UFC for, well over 10 years at this point. I think it's like 13 years in the UFC, and nobody's ever really been able to take him down and control him throughout the duration of the fight. So, maybe Mullarkey lands a takedown or 2, but I see, Makdessi popping right back up. And what you're going to get with Makdessi is just, 15 minutes of walking forward. The nickname's the Bull, and the Bull for a reason. He's going to come forward the entire time, and he's going to come forward with a ton of volume. John Makdessi lands 5.52 significant strikes per minute. That is very good volume. And, even in his last fight against Nasrat Haqparast, in terms of the numbers, the volume, it was very competitive, and we actually saw Makdessi outland Nasrat Haqparast across 15 minutes. But, Haqparast won the fight due to getting that knockdown and a couple takedowns in that third. So I actually think this fight's going to be pretty close. I would not trust Jamie Mullarkey anywhere near minus 280. Like, I even saw him at like minus 180, and I was like, I mean, come on, just because this guy, you can't trust the chin, you can't trust you can't trust him to wrestle here and have success, and you can't trust the strike and defense. But he is at home, he's younger, he's bigger, so there are some reasons to like Jamie Mullarkey. But I'm actually going to take the dog and Makdessi to get it done. I feel like hometown cooking could potentially come into play here, though. Like, if it's close, you know who it's going to. But I'll say Makdessi gets it done. I like the volume. I think Makdessi can outland Jamie Mullarkey in terms of the numbers here. If he gets taken down, get back up and make this a tough, close, gritty fight. Give me Makdessi by decision. Moving on, we have Jack Jenkins going against Chepe Mariscal. We got Jack Jenkins, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach, 12-2, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Chepe Mariscal, he's 30 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach, 14-6 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that Jack Jenkins opened up minus 255. He's currently sitting at minus 220. Chepe Mariscal opened up at plus 215. He is currently sitting at plus 185. So yeah, Chepe Mariscal definitely impressed in his UFC debut. I believe it was up a weight class. I believe it was somewhat short notice as well against Trevor Peek. And it was a matchup where a lot of people, including me, thought Peek was probably going to knock this guy out. Chepe had been knocked out multiple times in the past. But no, Chepe showed very, very good durability. He mixed in some takedowns here and there as well. So yeah, very good performance for the debut of Chepe Mariscal against Trevor Peek. This is a completely different matchup, though. Like, this matchup couldn't be any more different. We have, Trevor Peek, a guy that, throws all technique out of the window. Trevor Peek is, all offense, no defense, right? And you're going against a guy now in Jack Jenkins who's, very technical, has very good leg kicks. This is a guy in Jack Jenkins who can mix in the wrestling as well, has landed 9 takedowns between Contender Series and the UFC. And that's kind of the one area where I think Jack Jenkins can go out there and kind of look minus 220 here. And that's going to be the wrestling. There's a very concerning fight I watched with Chepe Mariscal, and that was the fight against Sean Soriano. If you guys don't know, Sean Soriano is a guy that had, used to fight in the UFC. Sean Soriano is a guy that, in the UFC, everybody's taking this guy down. Everybody's controlling this guy, subbing this guy. Sean Soriano, I think on paper he's a black belt, but, guys are taking this guy down easy and holding him down. But in that fight, we saw Sean Soriano actually go out there and out-grapple Chepe Mariscal, take this guy down in each and every single round and control him in each and every single round. And that's a huge red flag to me. So, if Sean Soriano is doing that to you, I think Jack Jenkins can as well. I like the striking of Jack Jenkins, but Chepe Mariscal is going to come forward. He's going to brawl on the feet. But I think Jack Jenkins can mix in the takedowns here, win minutes. And of course, we are in Australia, and he's going to have that hometown advantage as well if it's close. But I think Jack Jenkins gets it done, and I think Jack Jenkins gets it done by decision. Moving on, we have Carlos Ulberg going against Da Un Bum. We have Carlos Ulberg, 32 years old, 6'4", with a 77-inch reach, 8-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Da Un Bum, he's 29 years old, 6'4", with a 78.5-inch reach, 15-4-1 and 2-2-1 in his last 5 fights. So notice how I am calling Da Un Jung Da Un Bum, and that is because of this guy's last couple performances. I mean, he went out there against Devin Clark in his last fight, a fight that was, he was heavily favored in that matchup. He was favored to finish Devin Clark like many do. And Da Un Jung proceeded to go out there and he looked awful. Da Un Jung looked like he was drunk. It looked like he was, drinking prior to the fight, and he looked sluggish. He looked rough in there. He gassed out in a couple of minutes. The fight primarily played against the cage, but when it was at range, Da Un Jung just didn't have anything for Devin Clark, which is crazy to say. So that was a horrible performance from Da Un Jung. I'm not sure, what was going on, and prior to that, he did get knocked out in the first round by Dustin Jacoby. And, we should have probably known, that, the sky wasn't really the limit for Da Un Jung, because you just look back 5 fights ago and he went to a draw with Sam Alvey. So, yeah, I'm not really, too sold on Da Un Jung at this point. And, on the flip side, we have Carlos Ulberg, who's just been looking phenomenal in his last couple fights. Carlos Ulberg has been going out there and starching guys in the first round and starching durable guys. I mean, that win against Nikolai Negumereanu, and I know Negumereanu is not the best fighter by any means, But what Negumereanu is just next level tough. Like, I was convinced that nobody was going to ever finish Nikolai Negumereanu unless you were able to like bring a shovel into the cage, but you are not allowed to do that. And Ulberg knocked this guy out. I was surprised. So great win there. And these guys are low level, like Ior Peteria, low level guy. Like I said, Negumereanu, low level guy. Tefon and Chukwu, not great. So this is going to be somewhat of a step up in competition here, but I just don't really see where Da Un Jung poses many problems outside of if he wrestles, and that's like the one thing holding me back from being like super confident on Ulberg, because we have not seen Ulberg's ground game tested. We've not seen his takedown defense tested, and Da Un Jung has shown the ability, at least in one of his fights against William Knight, where he went out there and got like 9 takedowns. So, I mean, if that Da Un Jung shows up and he's able to go out there and do that to Carlos Ulberg, maybe he has a path here. But if these guys strike for 15 minutes, I don't really see Da Un Jung posing many problems here in the striking department. And I think Ulberg probably catches him on the feet. So I'll say Ulberg wins this fight by first round knockout. But I think if Da Un Jung wrestles here, I think he could make it a little bit more interesting than I'm kind of expecting. But this line's kind of close. I mean, there's a lot of like massive favorites on this card. There's a lot of guys that I think are too heavily favored. And then there's some guys that I don't think are really favored enough, and this is kind of one of them that's like, I don't know, something feels off. I feel like Ulberg should be a bigger favorite in this matchup, but I don't know, maybe we'll see. But give me Ulberg to win this fight. I'll take him to win this fight by first round knockout here. All right, moving on to the main card opener. The UFC expects us to pay $80 for this fight. We got Tyson Pedro going against Anton Turkalj, the pleasure man. We have Anton Turkalj, who is 27 years old, 6'4", with an 78-inch reach, 8-2, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Tyson Pedro, 31 years old, 6'3", with a 79-inch reach, 9-4, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Take a look at the odds here. We see that it is a very closely aligned fight. Turkalj opened at -125, currently -110. Tyson Pedro opened at +105, currently -110. So Anton Turkalj is a very popular play. Everybody has a bet on Turkalj this week, and I get it. Tyson Pedro's a guy that went out there in his last fight, and kind of like Da Un Jung, right, where Tyson Pedro looked awful after the first couple minutes. He gassed out against Modestas Bukauskas, and he was actually getting out-volumed by Modestas Bukauskas, which was not a good look. But yeah, I think Tyson Pedro has some skills for sure. I think he has a lot of power on the feet. He has a really good submission game. But yeah, the cardio is definitely a question. And, you don't really want to question your cardio against a guy like Anton Turkalj, who we know Anton Turkalj can go 15 minutes and do it really no problem. So I kind of think Tyson Pedro's first round or bust here. And, relying on somebody to finish somebody as tough and durable as Turkalj is not something I really want to do. With that said, am I betting Anton Turkalj? Absolutely not. I think there's a multitude of holes in his game. This guy has no striking defense whatsoever. He blocks punches with his face, but like I said, he's very, very tough. 50% striking defense for Turkalj. Turkalj has a 16% takedown defense. Yeah, you heard that right. So Pedro probably can have some success. I think Pedro wins the first round at a very high clip. So if I'm betting Turkalj, it's probably a live bet. But yeah, I do think Turkalj is going to get put in some bad spots early in terms of the grappling, or even hit hard early. So I think Pedro's very live in the first round, but it's got to be in the first round. If this fight reaches the second, which I do think it probably does, Turkalj is absolutely going to take over. He's going to start mixing in the takedowns, and I think he's going to start to break Tyson Pedro. I don't think Pedro's going to be able to keep this pace for 15 minutes. So I like Turkalj here ever so slightly. It's a pick 'em for a reason. I'm not a big fan of both guys in terms of their skill set. Obviously, Anton Turkalj is a fan favorite, nicknamed the Pleasure Man, and he has a good shtick. But outside of that, I think he has a lot of room to grow still in terms of the striking defense, the takedown defense, the decision making, the IQ, and so on and so forth. But I'll say he survives the first round and gets a second round sub here. Turkalj, second round sub. This fight should be hilarious. Moving on, we have Justin Tafa going against Austen Lane. Again, the UFC expects us to pay $80 for this fight. We got Justin Tafa, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach, 6-3, 2-2-1, and no contest in his last 5 fights. Austen Lane, 35 years old, 6'6" with an 80-inch reach, 12-3, and 4-0-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. So we have Justin Tafa is the favorite. He opened up -210, currently -200. Austen Lane opened up +180, and he is currently +170. So this is a rematch here. The first fight happened a couple months ago, and it lasted about 60 seconds. Austen Lane, very nasty eye poke, and then they ruled it into a contest, and here we are a couple months later in Australia. So, yeah, I mean, my prediction's not going to change from what it was a couple months ago, and that prediction was a Justin Tafa first-round knockout. Austen Lane is going to actually have a big height advantage, a big reach advantage, but Austen Lane is very, very hittable. He leaves a lot of openings. In terms of the power advantage, I gave it to Tafa all day. And in terms of the durability, I gave it to Tafa as well. So yeah, I like Tafa to probably knock out Austen Lane and probably do it in the first round. But I will say, we didn't get to see a lot of that fight with Tafa and Lane, but Lane did have some success early. He did do some good work, had a couple big body kicks, but I thought it was only like a matter of time before Tafa, found his range, closed the distance, and knocked out Lane. Lane has 3 losses, all by knockout, all in the first round, and I think, that continues here. I think he gets knocked out and probably in the first round as well. So give me Justin Tafa. I'll take Justin Tafa to win this fight by first round knockout. Moving on, we have Manel Kape going against Felipe dos Santos. We got Manel Kape, 29 years old, 5'5", with a 68-inch reach, 18-6, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Felipe dos Santos, 22 years old, 5'7", 7-0, and 4-0-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. So, yeah, I taped Felipe dos Santos for, I think it was week 2 of Dana White's Contender Series, and I was picking him to win. And then his opponent had to pull out, and then like a couple days later, I saw that Felipe dos Santos was stepping in to fight Manel Kape, and apparently they're putting this on the pay-per-view as well. So yeah, massive opportunity for Felipe dos Santos. This is going to be a big step up in competition, to say the least, against a guy, Manel Kape, who I rate very, very highly. This is a guy, Manel Kape, who I think the UFC rates very highly as well. If you guys don't remember, Manel Kape made his debut back in 2021 against the champion, Alexander Pantoja, and that fight was somewhat competitive. I did bet Pantoja in that fight. The next fight comes around. I also had a bet on Nicolau, so I bet against Kape twice in a row, and Nicolau was able to win that fight. But a lot of people thought that Kape won that fight, and he was very, very competitive in that fight. The thing with Kape, early on when he made his debut in the UFC, he just wouldn't throw anything. He wouldn't let his hands go. But I think he's starting to finally put it together. He's finally starting to let his hands go more and more. And we're seeing that in the Osborne fight, where he got that flying knee, where he completely just destroyed Zhalgas Zhumagulov. I mean, this is a guy in Zhumagulov who I don't think had ever been finished up until that point. And Manel Kape went out there and wrecked him in the first round. And then we saw him go out there and just beat the living crap out of David Dvorak, almost submitting him in the first round, ripping his arm off just about, and then proceeding just to beat the crap out of him for the next 10 minutes. And, sadly, Keith Peterson just let this happen for 15. I mean, it was a brutal beatdown. So Manel Kape, he's only 29 years old. He's training at a really good gym. I think he's finally starting to put it all together. This guy's fought in very good promotions. This guy has fought very, very good competition. And this is going to be just a massive step down in competition for Manel Kape. Like I said, making his debut against the champ, Mateus Nicolau, guys like that. Even David Dvorak is a really good fighter. Going against Felipe dos Santos, who I just don't really see as going to pose many problems here. I think Kape can actually mix in takedowns here. Felipe dos Santos can be taken down very easy. Felipe dos Santos is going to come forward with reckless abandon. He's going to, eat one to give one, which is probably going to be to his detriment here. I see Manel Kape knocking out Felipe dos Santos in the very first round. This is another fight where the line is a little bit closer than I expected, and I think it might be because Felipe dos Santos, does train at Shoot to Box Diego Lima. He is going to come in there with the blonde hair on Saturday, which people, seem to really like. But we just saw a Shoot to Box Diego Lima guy last week in Paris with blonde hair get finished in the first round, and that was Kletzen Rodriguez. was actually training at Shoot to Box. So, yeah, I think Felipe dos Santos could be something special potentially, but he has a long way to go. 22 years old, I still think he has a long way to go, and this is just too soon for Felipe dos Santos, in my opinion. Give me Manel Kape, first round finish here. All right, next we have the co-main event. We got Alexander Volkov going against Tai Tuivasa. We got Volkov, 34 years old, 6'7", with an 80-inch reach, 36-10, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Tai Tuivasa, 30 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach, 15-5, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that Alexander Volkov opened up -225, currently -250. Tai Tuivasa opened up +190, currently +210. Your typical heavyweight fight. Obviously, Volkov is going to be the bigger fighter, 5-inch height advantage. He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. But at the end of the day, these guys are going to stand and bang. I do think Volkov has more tools on the feet. I love the kicks to the body as well. And we saw, Cyril Gahn kind of attack the body of Tai Tuivasa in their matchup. Hurt him to the body a couple times. I feel like Volkov could do that. Very good leg kicks as well. So, yeah, I think Volkov's probably the minute winner here. But a lot of times in the heavyweight division, minute winning doesn't really mean a ton because it only takes one big shot. I think the power advantage is clearly in favor of Tai Tuivasa. I mean, I get why Volkov's favored, but my goodness, should he be -250 here? I don't know. In a heavyweight fight where it's going to take place in the feet, like neither of these guys are going to wrestle. So, yeah, it's another very, very wide line here. I'm going to pick the dog in Tai Tuivasa to land a big shot and knock out Alexander Volkov here. We're in his hometown, Australia. I think he's going to want to put on a show for the fans. He's going to go out there and he's going to stand and bang, and it only takes one, and Tai Tuivasa hits like a truck. He's on a 2-fight skid. I think people might be a little bit low on him at this point, but look at who he's getting finished by. Cyril Gahn finished him in the 3rd round, and then Sergey Pavlovich finished him as well. I think both Sergey Pavlovich and Gahn would beat Volkov. Obviously, Gahn already beat Volkov across 25, but I think Pavlovich would probably knock out Volkov as well. So, no shame in those losses. I'll take Tuivasa to go out there, land a big shot, and knock out Volkov at some point in this fight. I do think he's going to be losing the minutes, though. I do think he's going to be getting out volume, but like I said, it only takes one, and Tai Tuivasa has ridiculous power. So, give me Tai Tuivasa. I'll say he wins this fight by first-round knockout. And then we have the main event. Don't forget to comment down the significant strikes, guys, between these two for the contest. But we have Israel Adesanya going against Sean Strickland. We'll start with Adesanya, 34 years old, 6'4", with an 80-inch reach, 24-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Sean Strickland, 32 years old, 6'1", with a 76-inch reach, 27-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that Adesanya opened up -400. Currently -650, and then Sean Strickland opened up +300, and he's currently sitting at +475. So, yeah, I did break down this fight on my channel earlier on Sunday. If you guys want to check that out, it went a little bit more into depth, but I mean, there's not much to say here. I think this is probably the easiest matchup for Adesanya since maybe Brad Tavares. I mean, it's been a while because, with Adesanya, like if you're Adesanya, you typically have to worry about either, guys with a lot of power, like an Alex Pereira, a Jared Cannonier, even a Paulo Costa, even a Calvin Gastelum or a Yoel Romero, right? Or if you're Adesanya, you have to worry about the takedown, guys wrestling, like a Robert Whittaker, like a Marvin Vettori, guys like that. So this is a matchup where I don't really think Sean Strickland poses either of those threats. Sean Strickland's not a power guy. He's really not. Doesn't hit that hard. He was able to finish Abus in his last fight, but, Abus, I kind of think he got massively, massively overrated. And then in terms of wrestling, like, does Sean have the ability to wrestle? Sure, he does, but will he wrestle? I doubt it. I really doubt it. Because, there's been fights where we're like, Sean Strickland, you should go out here and wrestle, and then he literally doesn't show any interest in wrestling whatsoever. Most notably, that Alex Pereira fight. He should have been wrestling from the jump, but it looked like that wasn't even in the game plan. So, should he wrestle? Yes. Will he wrestle? Probably not. And even if he does wrestle, Adesanya does have good enough takedown defense, get up game to keep it standing and win the minutes on the feed. So I like Adesanya here to pick apart Sean Strickland for 5 rounds. I'm not sure if he finishes Sean Strickland, though. I know a lot of people are on like the finish and like the fight doesn't go. Adesanya, I would not really want to be relying on him to finish anybody. Like, he's been to a ton of decisions. He did finish Alex Pereira in his last fight, but other than that, had a decision win against Cannonier, Whitaker, Vittori, Romero, Gastelum, Anderson Silva. I mean, he goes to decisions a lot, but he did finish Paulo Costa and Alex Pereira. So, but yeah, Sean Strickland's durable. I think this probably goes 25 or at least pretty deep into the fight. Give me Adesanya to win this fight, 50-45. Maybe Sean Strickland gets around, but I don't know. So give me Adesanya here. I think it's a great matchup for him, and a matchup that I'm not really looking forward to. I was looking forward to the Dricus Duplessis matchup more than anything, but it is what it is. Adesanya by decision. There you have it, guys. Don't forget to comment down your significant strikes. Don't forget to leave a like as well. Subscribe to the channel. I'll be putting out more content throughout the week for UFC 293. We got prize picks content coming out. We have betting breakdown videos coming out. I'm going live Friday for my final thoughts live stream, and then I'll also be going live Saturday for a best bet live stream for the pay-per-view as well. So lots of content coming your way. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all of that. Best of luck, everybody, for UFC 293, and enjoy the fights. See you later.